Good evening, this is Isaac with Programmable Audio for episode 15 of Mix with Newb. I'm your Newb. Tonight, the topic we're going to cover is vocal editing. I apologize about the last mix, the last tutorial where I said that it was episode 13. I messed up because I look at the project folder and I look at the last one in the sequence, and I forgot to rename it at that point. So I correctly titled it, 14, but in the beginning of the video I said 13. Anyway, I'm a noob at making YouTube tutorials as well, so please forgive me. Not much else to say about the personal side of things. In the last one, I'm doing two back-to-back, so today's my day off from the gym. I'm not working out today. I did work my job. The only marching orders I have is to stretch out really well before bed and I'm going to try to get my 8 or perhaps 9 hours of sleep tonight. So let's get started on mixing vocals. Just a quick note. If you watched the last video, if you didn't, that's okay. In the last video, what we did was I took an MP3 and a wave of the mix as it is now, and I'm going to upload them to my Google Drive, and in the morning on my way to work, I'm going to open them on my phone and play them through my car speakers. I have not done that yet. I guess because I've been focusing on making the tutorials, I haven't really kept up with my protocol of mixing and then sending it out and listening in the car on the way to work. And when I woke up this morning, I really wanted to hear the song, but I hadn't done a rip, so I did those two. So at this point, I don't really want to touch the instruments anymore. I want to hear how they sit in my car. They sound decent in my speaker situation. They sound okay now that we've cleaned up some stuff. So I want to get a feel for how the mix is before I make any adjustments further to the instruments. So I want to begin focusing on vocals. Usually I'll do these dead last, but because of what I'm dealing with, as far as what I just described, we'll go ahead and start taking a look at these. So one of the things you want to do with vocals is you want to try to clean them up as best you can.
Things are out of.
On these, there's a headphone bleed.
Yeah, there are no secrets. Things are out of.
What you're listening for is the click track and the song very faintly in the background, right in these measures.
Things are out of hand.
Okay, so the real easy way to fix this is just to slice those out of there. And you can see, let me make this as big as I possibly can. This is going to fill the whole screen. Awesome. You get it to fill the whole screen. All right. So you can see the note trails off, but then there's like this little sprinkling of sound right in here, and then this little, I think that might be like either a drum hit or that's him breathing in maybe. Let's see here.
Things are out of.
Yeah, that's him going, things are, okay. So what you can do is you can just slice. And again, split. God, I will train myself to stop saying slice. We're going to split the track right here. So while I have it selected, I'm just going to hit S. I'm going to go over to right before this note starts. And a little bit of inhale sound is okay because it'll sound natural. But this giant,
Things are out of.
we don't want that all in there. So let's split right about there. We'll go ahead and highlight this little section we created in the middle and delete it. Now you can do crossfade, and we actually haven't talked about crossfades at all, so maybe that'll be the subtitle of the video, vocal editing, and we'll talk about crossfades. So what this is a fade, a downward fade as it approaches the end of the clip. And you can see that if I drag it over the top of the waveform, it actually makes it look, it actually reduces it. So it's giving you a visual idea of how that crossfade affects it. And this is handy for if you have two things that need to cross over each other, that's why they call it a crossfade. My crossfades are set to auto right now, and it's this button here next to the grouping, and between the metronome and the grouping is auto crossfade. You can choose either auto crossfade media items when editing or trim content behind media items when editing. I've never taken it off of default, so I don't really know what the other one does. But you can toggle this on and off up here, which sometimes is handy if you do. Because what happens is if you need to put two things, if you need to kind of merge them together, watch what happens you see the 2 crossfades here on either end of it. And let me bring this over because I made a pledge that I would put as much content as I could up in that corner. And notice I'm not pointing at the screen like a noob. I'm trying to go up in that corner. All right, so we drag this over. Watch what happens to the crossfades. See that? Now they're crossed, which is a true crossfade. So what this means is as the play cursor goes over this section, and don't worry, I'm going to hit Control Z to put that back where it is because now it's way out of place. It'll sound awful, and you don't really want to mess with vocals like that. So as the play cursor passes over, it smoothly brings the volume of the first clip down and the volume of the second clip up, and you can see where they hit. And so once this is sort of initiated, now you can hover over here and you can change this. You can position it where you want. You can do what you need to do. You can even get rid of it. Okay, so let's undo all of that so the vocal goes back to where it should be. There it is. All right, so this is just a fade. It's only considered a crossfade when you have 2 items crossing, so it's a fade. And I believe there is a way, let's see here. There is a way to make this a different shape than just that gradual fade. But that's sort of your ideal. You just want it to kind of have a gentle slope. And where is my... Let's see, I know I thought if I hovered over a certain part of it. It's funny because it happens sometimes when you don't want it to, but then when you want it to, you can't get it to... Oh, there it is. Okay, so what you need to do is make sure you're hovering over the line. See, if I'm inside the fade, nothing. If I'm outside, nothing. But if I hover over the line, I get the little shape, which lets me click and drag. But if you right-click, you can change the shape of it. I can make it an abrupt drop. I can make it more of a sharp initial drop and then a more gradual drop near the end. I'm guessing these all have names, but let's see if I hover, will it tell me the name? Fade out. Yeah, they might have names. I don't know. Fade out. So something like that. Now what I'll tell you is there's that S sound, and you might be tempted to just drag this all the way to the end of the word things and just have it like completely kill that S sound, but then it becomes unnatural. Let's listen to it.
No secrets.
It's like he's making like a sound effect. So you need to leave enough of the little in there, but you can have it fade. So we'll use this and we'll have it fade.
Secrets.
See that? It fades, and what you notice is you're only getting like one of the clicks. And maybe we could actually kill the click a little bit better. Let's see here.
Secrets. Things are out.
Yeah, we've almost completely removed the click. So if you notice, a couple of times I've changed the trim length of this, and then I've adjusted the fade as well.
Things are out.
The reason you change this tells you can tell the clip. You're essentially setting. I'm sorry. Let me put this over in the right or the left area of the screen because I know my face is going to be down on the bottom right. So wherever you place the edge of the item, there's complete silence there. You know for certain there's no sound following that.
Things are out of hand.
Okay, so that works. I kind of like that shape. Let's switch. Which one is it again? So if you want a reminder of which one it is, that blue square there tells you which one you have selected. So it's the one right in the very center. So let's see here. It's this one. I kind of like that one. It gives it
Things are.
I mean, it's almost imperceptibly different. It's not that it's that much different than the standard, the default one, but it's kind of nice.
Things are out of hand.
All right, so that's pretty much what you want to do for the whole.
Things are out of hand.
You just want to go along and start making these cuts, making the splits like that. Bam, nailed it. Splits, not a slice. And then again, his. And really, let's put it in the mix and hear. Some of the stuff you in the mix you won't even hear it, but this is just to make the vocals very clean. Make them as clean as you can. It just makes a better recording in the end. But you know, some of the stuff you may not even have to do really. Let's listen in the mix. Let's put that deep inhale back in there and see if you even notice it. You probably don't even notice that it's there.
Out of hand.
It's almost imperceptible. I mean, I can hear that it's there, and it's probably because I'm listening for it directly. But if you're not listening for that, you're not going to hear it. It's not that critical. You get rid of it. But some of that stuff, the beat, hearing the beat in between, you know, it's best to just get rid of that excess noise.
They can't reach us from an ancient land. Breathing in.
All right, let's solo it. Let's get it back to solo here. Oops. No, I don't want to add an effect yet. Oh, and a quick note before we continue. I already have effects on this because vocals are kind of hard to hear plain. What I typically do is I just throw reverb on the vocals initially in my rough mix, no matter what, because it just softens them out. It just some starting point. I mean, I can fine tune that vocal reverb later, but it just makes the mix listenable in the beginning. Let's actually bypass the vocal verb and hear how it sounds.
They can't reach us
See how
from
dry
an
it is?
ancient land.
It was recorded in a concrete room there was a baffle above his head, like a cardboard thing that we made just to break up the sound waves from hitting the ceiling, which is very angular and, you know, it's like a gable roof. So it doesn't have much character. It's just dead. And it's not, I'm saying the sound, the character of the recording, not his voice. I'm not saying any, you know, it has nothing to do with his actual voice, singing voice, or anything like that. It's how it was captured in the room. Let's listen again.
They can't reach us from an ancient land.
Okay, pretty dry, really. And the thing is, you'll never really hear someone singing like that if you're playing live or... So if we turn the vocal verb back on, this is what it sounds like.
They can't reach us from an ancient land.
So it helps make it smooth. I mean, part of it, you know, it does make those S's stand out a little worse. Let's mute again.
They can't reach us.
Let's hear it with the verb.
They can't reach us from...
And that kind of stuff is really hard to get rid of when if you're recording. It's hard to not lean on stuff like that, an S or the plosives and things that we make with our mouths. The little rush of air that comes out is called a plosive, like the word explosive. But ooh, careful there. Okay, there's something just happened right there that it was a noob moment, and I want you to be careful. Make sure you don't have anything grouped, and make sure you're not selected on more than one track, because I hit split and it actually split the items down below, and I caught it and I undid it, but you can inadvertently split more than one item if you're not careful. So that was a good noob moment. I don't know if that was noob number one or it's been more than one. Excuse me while I take a drink of water. All right, so continuing on, I'm just going to try to go...
Breathing in for and more.
What I'll do, we'll just do one verse and one chorus, and then we'll move on. I won't do the whole song while you're watching. I'll finish the song by myself as far as editing it, the vocals. So after a while, you'll get pretty good at knowing what this... You'll be able to see, like, okay, these little guys right here, that's him breathing in.
Breathing in.
How that's funny, right? I said breathing in, and breathing in is the lyric. I did that on purpose. All right.
For and mold.
For and mold.
For and mold.
All right, so there we don't have any... I'm not hearing any extra beat now. Any of that... I wonder if I could change this to like a default... Change the default one. I bet it might be one of the settings. Oops. Where is that? I don't want to mess with that right now, but because the default one is just like the gentle curve, but I'm kind of liking this more exaggerated, so it has more of a shoulder, and then it drops off, you know, after it hits a certain point, it drops off more steeply. Let's see.
While working fingers to the bone.
Okay, right there you can clearly hear. That's plenty of time between those two, because I'm wondering if it comes through on the in the audio in the tutorial. There was one. I forgot to get that one. Oops. All right. So again, I'm trimming with I'm splitting with S when I have the item selected. I'm messing with the crossfades.
Breathing in.
And we're just cleaning the audio up. And the thing, you want to be careful not to move this stuff side to side. I've done that before and come back and go, oh man, these vocals are all shifted around. So just be really judicious with your clicking. Be very careful with, if you have an item selected and you know you want to split part of it, be careful that you don't accidentally move it sideways. If you do just like that, just do Control Z to undo it. But just be very mindful of what you're changing. So there's headphone bleed right there. If you ever wanted to hear what that, let's turn off the verb so you can hear it clearly. I guess let's turn the vocals up. So they're at -13 now. I'm going to turn it all the way up. So this is what headphone bleed sounds like when you don't have a set of headphones like this that are isolating, that shield your ear from the outside noise. And I guess it works in both ways. So the headphones aren't putting out excess noise that come back in through the mic. I don't believe he was using these to record at that time. He was using my other pair, and they're kind of noisy. And maybe he was standing a little too close to the mic. But here's what headphone bleed sounds like.
Poison.
It's click and it's guitars, and I think that's all we had recorded at that point. So that was often our process, was throw up a click, have him play the guitar parts to it. We'd build the song. We'd get all the parts kind of lined up. You know, he'd go, okay, it's verse, chorus, breakdown, second, final chorus, and then we're out. And, and we'd lay down all the guitar parts. So we'd have the click, the guitar, then he'd put the vocals in. I'd come along in my time and in my spare time, I'd put the bass. And then as the drummer was available, we'd have him come over and finish the track with drums. So that's what you're hearing there is him singing over just click and guitar, adding the third item to the track, which is vocals. So you want to check, if you have like gaps in the stuff, you want to kind of check. Let me turn this back down to -13 because that's probably super loud now. It was probably, I imagine it was at a good level. At -13, it was probably at a nice level for coming through your laptop or headphones. But at 0, I bet it was probably really loud. I'm sorry about that. I have a fly in here. Okay, let's see. And those S's we'll deal with. We'll deal with that. There's a way you can kind of tame those a little bit. I mean, you don't really want to that much. I mean, if I had known what to listen for, to a higher degree when we were tracking, I might have went, well, you got some really loud S's. There were a couple of times where I said, yeah, you ended that note with a really loud S or a really loud P sound or something, and we would redo it on the spot. But we didn't have a ton of time. We're all family men. We all have jobs, and our time was limited. So he'd do some vocals, we'd hear it, and everything was lined up, and we'd say, okay, it's good.
Blistering from digging holes.
And I mean, the S's are not that. They're really, oops, there, I just moved it. Just like I warned you about a minute ago, I just did exactly that. So be careful of that. So what was I saying? Oh, the S sound. They're not that bad. Zzz, but that comes through. Let's hear it in the mix with reverb. So, and I honestly think the reverb does make it worse. Yeah, so the reverb makes it worse, I think, because let's compare. It makes it like echo around a little bit. Yeah, see, it makes it bounce around. So I think what we can do, in one of the previous episodes, and it was fairly recently, I think it might have been episode 12, we did some EQ slicing, and we can attempt something like that with this, because I do have filter on my EQ. Actually, let's see if this might be part of the culprit too, is I have high end boosted, so it is going to make those high ends more sizzle in the area of where there should be sizzle. It's going to make it stand out. It sounds awkward. The human voice repeated like that. So yeah, we can definitely... Oh god, that's obnoxious. I apologize for that. But that's something that we'll look into at a later phase. I mean, as part of mixing the vocals, we do need to look at that. So we could do an automation where when it hits the S, actually, let's just go ahead and do it right now. So if you remember from automation from, is it episode 13? Man, I should maybe have like an episode list in front of me so I could actually direct you to it. But in one of the previous episodes, we hit on automation. So we're going to go ahead and under the vocal channel. And this is another example of why I wouldn't just put the reverb on the vocals, why I like to send it to this vocal bus, because now we can do automation independent of the main vocal track, which is nice. So we're going to go to the EQ one here. Let's open it up and find which one we want to look at. It's going to be 3. And we're going to actually I'm going to try just dipping the gain like this and having it return. We'll just try something super simple like that and see how it sounds. All right, so this is band number 3, and we're going to affect the gain. So it's re-Q, band 3, gain. There it is. Boom. If we hover over the line here, we should see it set to whatever this is telling us it's set. 3.6 is the gain. Yep. All right, so we know that S is like right there, right? It's like the last. So because it's the word holes, it is the very end of the word. So it's actually this chunk of wave right here. It's this waveform right here. So we could just do from here. Oh, remember that was that trick? It was a double click. There was that trick where if you maybe a shift click. No. There was a trick where wherever your selection window is, if you, God, what was it? If you clicked, we clicked on here. There it is. You click on the little volume. This this affects the whole thing. Oh, that's really handy. Wow. Okay, that's something brand new that I just taught myself, sort of. So this is a perfect un-noob moment. Let's say anti-noob moment. I just taught myself something cool and new. On one of them, I noticed that wherever your selection window is, I'll do it brand new again over here because there's nothing here. It doesn't matter. Wherever your selection window is, if you grab this little volume wheel here, it puts 4 sets of points. And then if you drag this down or up, it grabs the inner 2 points and it moves them accordingly, either up or down. Wow, that if I had known that Reaper did that, that would have saved me dozens of minutes of time of plugging points in. Not that dramatic. It's not like, hundreds of hours, but dozens of minutes of time of painstakingly adding point after point just, by hand. Why is it doing that? Oh, you know why it's doing that? Because snap. No, snap is not turned on. Okay, that's weird. Item grouping. Oh, envelope points move with media items. I don't know if I want to have that on by default or not. I don't think I do. Let's see. Oh, I think that happened because, if you try to go too far down with something, I'm not sure what that was. But that was really awkward. So let's see if that helps. Okay, the other thing we can try, because it doesn't seem, well, let's hear it bypassed and see if it did make a difference. This is bypassed. This is with it engaged. Okay, so it does sort of help. The other thing we could do is we could actually just completely bypass the EQ right there just momentarily. So again, we're going to open our automation dialog box, and we can actually do re-EQ. See how it has bypass? Or we could do wet and turn it completely down. It's essentially the same difference. With bypass, it's just a binary, on or off. All right, so now we have that. Oh, I didn't know this point was all the way. Okay. And we can watch that too. Oh, it bounces twice because of the these ones I added just as an example. There is a fly on my screen. I hope it probably flew in front of the webcam. Wow. Stinking fly. Okay, so again, let me test my theory out, the thing that I just taught myself. I'm pretty sure it's going to work. So I have my selection window. It's corresponding to roughly the area I want to bypass. Actually, let's go a little wider just to see what happens. Oops. Let's go like that or something. Because over past the note, past the S doesn't matter so much because we're going to hit the end of the media item and the sound is going to go completely to 0. So let's touch our button. It totally works. Wow. So I think we just drag this one up. There we go. So like I said, it's binary. That means there is no gradient between the 2 points. It's either up for bypassed or down for enabled. All right, so again, we can watch the EQ. What you want to watch for is see how it's unchecked. So if I place the play cursor out of it, it's checked. So, okay, this turned into a little mini extra lesson on automation. What do you know? That works. Okay, yeah. Automation is great for vocals. You can do a lot of good stuff with automation for vocals.
Souls.
All right, let's hear it in the mix.
Souls.
And let's bypass these and hear it without the automation. So it just takes the sharpness off just a little bit. That's all, you know, it's good. And here's what, let's completely kill that S and see if it sounds unnatural. And I'm guessing it's probably going to because it's going to sound like soul. It actually changes the word from souls to soul because you're completely killing the S, so you're making it from a plural to a singular. That's pretty interesting. But then it doesn't rhyme with digging holes, so you can't really do that. You don't want to do that. The other thing I think you could have... There's a Syllabant plugin, which I don't... It's, what do they call it? What do they call it? It's the hiss, anti-hiss, or no, what is it called? It's oh, I can't remember the name right now. It's something that you can actually you can go after syllabants. You can trigger from, like, you can tell it when two frequencies like build up too high, it'll actually compress whatever you have it set on. Oh, what is it called? Oh, I'm getting tired, so I'm forgetting my all of the names of my plugins. Oh my goodness. If I see it here, I'll pull it up and talk about it, but I actually should probably just save that for another tutorial. Oh, what is it called? I'm scanning over it, I'm not seeing it. Not syllab. What is it called? There's someone watching right now screaming at me. It's called that, you noob. You can't remember? Where are you? Anyway. There is a certain plugin and it has a special name and it's designed to try to kill stuff like that, because what you're hearing is like a real sharp jump in some of the higher frequencies that's not pleasant to your ear, and you can actually compress like at what is it called? I'm gonna look at every single freaking plugin and I'll see it. What is it called? It will actually compress just at the one frequency, like just at the, if you could figure out right where that is really concentrated, that S sound. It's a de-esser. That's what it is. de-esser is a de dash. There it is. De-esser. Okay, so this, yeah, you this when it'll detect a buildup, and you need to feed it. Processing monoterm on frequency bandwidth. All right, so I'm not going to go into this, but this is one that we'll actually save this for the next episode, and we'll talk about how we can actually automatically have that extra frequency kind of cut out, because what we've done doesn't seem like quite enough. Actually, what we can try is let's see here. Let's have that dip a little early just to see, and we'll watch the EQ this time and see. But I have a feeling it's not really going to help as much as I'm hoping. Yeah. All right. So I'm actually going to get rid of this bypass one. I'll leave the... if you ever need to get rid of a lane of automation completely, you're going to do the little drop down here and do clear envelope. It's going to say, are you sure? It's going to remove everything, and you go, yep. All right. So we'll look into using a de-esser on one of the next episodes to fight that S sound. And if we had gone through and heard any popping, which, he was using a windscreen the whole time, and I asked him to be mindful of plosive sounds, because if you're not mindful, some people talk with a lot of plosive. If you've ever heard a podcast or any kind of show or interview where the person is not aware of what a plosive means, they're not speaking sort of measured, they're kind of speaking forcefully, it actually just like slams into the mic. It's like a little wave of air that just hits the mic, and it makes like a kind of a popping sound. So, all right, so that was editing, beginning, let's say step 1 of editing vocals. We'll review now. So we split the vocal track so we could get rid of the headphone bleed, which, again, it wasn't very loud. It's not a very loud sound that we're getting rid of, but you just don't want it in there at all. Because if you have something like a compressor or anything affecting the signal, and even if that little bit of signal's in there and it kind of grabs onto it, you could end up with it coming through in the mix. I've heard of it happening in famous songs. I think there's is it Christina Aguilera song? I think there is one where the headphone bleed is right at the end of the song. I think that was Dave Pensato's fault, I think, which he owns it. He just says, yeah, it's part of the process. That kind of thing's going to happen. But if you can avoid it, you don't want any headphone bleed in there. You don't want any heavy-duty S sounds, any sibilants. And you want to try to avoid plosives. So we went through and we split everything up. We put some fades in there. We tried to get this first section of the song sounding clean. So what I need to do is continue along and do all the rest of the vocals. And also, if you hear any weird stuff, anything that's out of time, or if you find any mistakes or anything like that as you're going through here, try to fix them on the spot. But again, be careful not to, as you notice, when we got rid of the S sound, we changed that word from holes to hole, because we completely removed that indicates a plural. Holes. Without that S at the end, it's just the word hole. So be mindful of how much you edit vocals. Try not to affect, if you're watching me continue here, because I'm just kind of an autopilot, try not to affect the primary sound. Like if you're watching, I'm not putting the cursor over any of the actual waves if I can. I'm going right outside of them, which is going to ensure that you're not actually touching the words of the song. I mean, sometimes you do have to touch them a little bit, with effects and stuff, or as we saw with automation. So again, we did cover some automation. We learned that little quick tip that if you have a selection window and you touch your little wheel here, it adds a total of 4 points. It grabs the inner 2 and it lets you automatically bring those up or down, which has been, to me, was just an aha moment. And it's reversing some of my Newb status just a tiny, tiny bit. I know from now on I'll be using that one whenever I'm doing automation, which, as we approach episode 20, I am going to begin getting into refinement, and automation is part of that. From what I've heard, a lot of the big producers, I've heard a quote, like, I'm not sure where it was from, and I'm really bad at this, unless it's like a Mixer Man thing, which I always, it seems like every single episode I sneak him in there somehow, but I forget who it was that said this, but in high-end producing, automation takes up a large portion of the mixing and processing phase. If you're so you pay people to sit here and do kind of like what I'm doing. You're processing it. The actual producer himself, the creative person, isn't going to sit here for hours on end splitting tracks and I mean, they might. If it's their thing, they might. But anyway, near the end of a project, you get into some heavy duty automation so that, I mean, I've seen portions of mixes where it looked like they were going to put 2 or 3 different kinds of automation on every single syllable of the whole song, of the vocals of the whole song, which seems like, wow, that's a lot of work. And how much do you actually get out of those extra hours of automation? Do you actually get a return on it?
Push it back. Get with.
Well, they must. It must be worth their time. I mean, obviously they're pros and automation can be super powerful. So they will spend, who knows, a third of the project just automating near the end. Like once they've got all their levels and stuff dialed in, and they'll say, well, if you go watch some of Pensado's stuff, again, another person I mention over and over repeatedly, but he's very good. He goes in and he is actually looking like at each word of the entire song. He's like, well, that one, like I need a little bit more on the nose of that, and then I want it to echo just a little. And he spends a few minutes just like tweaking just one little word in the song. You're like, wow, I guess that's what it takes to be a top level producer, So we're definitely not going to do that, but we're going to try to get these vocals sounding.
Roll the punches and give them something slick, sack, attack to bring it back down.
We're going to try to get them sounding good. We don't want any ugliness to come through. We don't want any, as far as like, mistakes. Like, where if he breathes into if he like inhales sharply and has like a snort or something, or, coughs in between or anything like that. And when I say mistake, I don't mean, in his musicianship. And I would never insult the creator and the singer and guitar player of this song. He's an awesome musician. Respect the guy a lot. But what I mean, you do find mistakes sometimes. I mean, I've found mistakes in my own bass playing. It's like, oh man, I slapped the third string with my pinky on that one or something, and there's this awful sound in there. So even in vocals, there could be, like I said, a sniff out of place or something he didn't mean to put in the song, or maybe bumps the mic or something like that. And then you want to try to do your best to get rid of that so it doesn't come through on the final product. All right, so I'm getting close to being almost done with this. I said you wouldn't have to sit and watch me do the whole thing, but I'm almost there. So might as well finish it up. So you see I'm going kind of quickly. And like I said, I'm being very careful just to go to the outside of the wave, so I know I'm not cutting any. I'm like trying to cut right at silence every time. That way it's just quick and easy of deleting these out. And then what you can do later, we can actually glue this all together if we want, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea, just so that the risk is with all these different chunks, if you move one of them out of place, it might be hard later to come back and figure out where they all go. All right, so this will be a good time to show you glue. If you go to the far right of the items or far left and you right click and drag, so that's kind of awkward, but you'll get used to it. Right click and drag, and you can change this in Reaper. You can actually change this to be a different modifier key. You could have it, because right click and drag does your selection. So it's left click and drag. Notice we have them all highlighted now. And if you right click on any of them, you want to right click inside one of them, come down here and go to find glue items. And you see it's processing. Now it just put them all together as one long item with silence in between. So it's nice and clean now. So those fades, if you had put any fades in over these, let's listen to this one. So that fade that I had over the end of that one is now like written into the track. So again, be careful about that. You know, glue can be very handy, but whatever changes you made using crossfade, now they're part of the track, you know. And you know, let me see here. I'm going to undo that because I didn't actually give this all here a critical listen yet. You can see I was going really quickly. So just in case there's something in here that I was too aggressive with, and I don't want to, because at this point when it's still split up like this, you can restore these just by dragging the item. That's what's great about Reaper. It's considered a non-destructive DAW. It doesn't actually, when you split like that and get rid of the middle section, it doesn't delete it forever. It's still just kind of present. And see how it's doing them all because I have them all selected. Let's go with just one selected. Drag the edge and it restores to where it was, you know. So actually, I guess a quicker way, I mean, I was hitting delete in between, but you could actually, I never thought of that. You could just click here, split, and then just drag like that. I guess that's, wow, okay. So that might be a quicker way to do stuff too. So again, you learn something, you might learn a new noob trick every time you get in here. Ooh, I heard something there. And this is, again, this is not a critique of his voice in any way. This is a production thing. You can hear the clicks right here. They're very faint, but they're there. Can you hear that? Click, 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 click. It's not a big deal. It's not going to kill the song, but it's not good either. If we could go back and retrack those vocals, I probably would. So I'm going to end there. Thank you for watching episode 15. I got it this time. Episode 15 of Mix with a Noob. I'm your noob. I'm Isaac. Thank you for watching. This is Programmable Audio. We appreciate your viewership. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit like. Hit that little bell for push notifications on your phone, so every time we put a video out, you'll get a little notice. And see you next time.